name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Catachrist Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catachrist.com, and we're speaking with my longtime good friend, Jason Lee Beckwith, who plays the role of Peter Criss in the Los Angeles-based Kiss tribute band, Kissed Alive. And Jason is joining us for our On the Record segment tonight. We're going to be talking to him about the 40th anniversary of Kiss's 1980 Unmasked album. Welcome to the show again, Jason. How have you been?
I'm doing great, Jason. How have you been?
Yeah, so don't be confused. It's the two Jasons tonight, but we're talking with Jason Lee here. And Jason, you and I just decided we're going to talk about Unmasked. Now, obviously, it's the 40th anniversary of Unmasked. Talk a little bit about your memories of hearing that album for the very first time.
Well, I don't think any of us at the time understood what was going on behind the scenes as fans, and especially not a 10-year-old me. You know what I mean? Actually, it's May 20th is when it was released, so I wasn't even 10 yet. I was still 9 years old. So I don't think we had any idea what was going on behind the scenes as far as Peter Criss being out of the band. Yeah,
because you look at that album cover, and Peter's definitely there.
Absolutely. There's not a mention of the fact that actually the drumming is, as you well know now,
Anton Fig.
Was played by Anton Fig, who was the longtime drummer for the David Letterman show.
Yeah, and then later he'd go on to work with Ace Frehley on some of his solo albums as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He did the first two solo albums for Ace Frehley, especially that very... that landmark first one with the New York Groove, of course, and Rip It Out, and all that stuff, of course.
Yeah,
that was actually the most successful of those original four solo albums. Am I correct?
Oh yeah, and well, I hear different things. I hear that was like the most popular, but then I heard from somebody the other day that supposedly Gene's album was the only one that actually charted. I don't know.
Yeah, Gene's the one that says it too.
yeah. Yeah, but
he had a lot of star power though.
Yeah.
So it makes sense if something showed up in the charts, but I don't remember hearing one song from that being played on the radio at all. I remember hearing Rip It Out being played a lot, and of course, New York Groove. What do you mean it's the only one that charted? New York Groove was everywhere. That had to have charted.
Yeah, and
I don't know. I'm gonna have to fact check that.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting. The one that Ace had a hit with, New York Groove, was actually a Russ Ballard tune, but
that's right. Yeah. Who also wrote? Didn't he write?
God Gave Rock and Roll to You too. Yeah.
What did he write? Didn't he write something for what's her name? Canadian.
I'm not sure, but I know he.
Alanis Morissette.
Oh, he very well made. Yeah, I think you're right. But
didn't he write that? Well, I'm here.
Yeah, he was also in the band Argent, but he was known a lot more for his songwriting, and then later on, like you said, he wrote for other people and had hits that way. But that's who Russ Ballard is. And getting back to Unmasked, you're very right. Peter Criss is very much on the album, and then the other thing that makes it confusing is the very first time we see the video for Shandi, on the two back in the day, Peter Criss is actually in the video as well. And I guess they were considering to let him come back, but it didn't quite work out because he was still heavily addicted to drugs,
Yep, and there was, he apparently the playing ability was just, and you never know. There's two sides to every story because I'm a drummer, but I don't read music, so I can understand, the both sides of the coin there. I don't know how much of that was
true.
Well, the guy lost his playing ability because he was high all the time or whatever, or if it was just we want to do this, more polished, straight ahead, always on the click kind of, always metronomed out kind of playing, and I don't necessarily know that that's always needed. I like the kind of push and pull where something gets a little faster, towards the end of the song or after the solo. It kind of lends more of an urgency, I kind of think. There's something to be said for, of course, you got to be able to, when you're recording stuff and you got to line stuff up, especially if you're doing it digitally. I get that, but at the same time, you never know. There's always two sides to every story. So, we never know what went on back then.
And
but I do want to say this. we were talking about the assertion, likely, the source being the subject, or the subject being the source, that Jeans was the only album that charted. And I'm looking here, the lead single from Aces, which was New York Groove.
Yeah.
The song made it to number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart.
That's a chart you go by.
By far the highest charting single of any of the 4 solo albums.
Wow.
So
there you go. That's the fact right before you. And
and then let's see, what the chart of the solo album itself was. It doesn't really. Excuse me. Yeah, the single was number 13, and the album itself was certified platinum by the end of 1978.
Yeah. Wow.
It was the highest selling of the 4 Kiss solo albums.
Yeah, and
so there's that.
There's that, and getting back to Unmasked, very much like you said, we didn't know all this at the time, but
we didn't know that Peter Criss was out of the band. We had no idea. It was, everything. The curtain was just about to be, the innocence was just going to be shattered after that.
I mean, from what I understand,
looking back, and when you listen to those albums, you can listen to that drumming and go, oh yeah, that's definitely not Peter Criss. But at the time, we didn't have any idea, and he did still kind of try to play that style. Yeah,
like I understand that, like Peter Criss, like his last time in the studio with Kiss was like 1979. Like Anton Fig, he played on most of Dynasty, but except for the Peter track, Dirty Livin', he appears on that, but nothing else. And back in the day, they didn't want, because nobody had ever seen Kiss. We didn't have the internet back then. Nobody had ever seen Kiss out of makeup or anything. If they did, they'd have a napkin or something.
Just that one article in Cream magazine.
Yeah. And so they really didn't want, like Gene and Paul especially, really didn't want people knowing. They wanted us to be under the illusion that, no, they were all the best of friends and they were all on the album. But even like, so even once they got Eric Carr in the band, so some people think, oh, okay, he's the drummer. He must be the one that plays on the album. Because again, nobody knew anything about Anton Fig being the studio guy. Back in the day, even Bob Kulick, nobody knew about his playing on a live tour or any of those albums. They kept that really, tight-lipped, and they really wanted people to have that illusion. No, we're the 4 best friends, and it's one for all, and it really wasn't the case. And I understand that, like when they went to replace Peter Criss, Carmine Appice contacted them about wanting to join. They said, no, Carmine, as much as we love what you do, you're already a well-known entity,
So it was just I will say this though, the sound and the production of it is very much indicative of Casablanca, the label that it was on, because what were they by and large known for? It was disco.
Yeah.
Donna Summer, stuff like that. So they had that kind of sheen to it. But then these guys came along with their, heavier hard rock.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a blend of those two things, and you can still tell that in the production style.
Oh yeah, and then even touching on what you're kind of talking about, like if you look at to me, like if you can put Dynasty next to Unmasked, Dynasty to me there's a little more of a disco element on that, whereas Unmasked it's a lot more poppy, and oddly enough it's the same guy.
I was going to say it's the same drummer, and neither one was Peter Criss.
Yeah, and the same guy. Who actually produced
Peter. I think they
Peter.
Didn't get heavy until they got Peter Eric Carr.
Yeah, but what's funny? So Vinny Appice, he was actually a songwriter, I think, for Casablanca, and he actually produced the Peter Criss solo album. And to try to get Peter to kind of get his act together, he says, like, I'm not going to go in the studio unless you guys, use my producer. And they ended up using Vinny Appice, and it was even Vinny Appice said, no, this guy,
he can't hang.
Drumming's not up to snuff. And Vinny Appice was also a songwriter, so if you look on those 2 albums, he's very heavily also involved in the songwriting.
Yeah, he did some stuff with Ringo Starr after the demise of the Beatles. He was kind of a songwriting partner for Ringo for a while.
Wow, very very interesting. But so getting back to Unmasked, I mean, and then you have the little comic strip for the album cover kind of go along.
Yeah, let me tell you about that comic strip album cover. As you know, I'm in a Kiss tribute band called Kiss Alive,
yes,
right? And actually, by the time this airs, it'll have already happened. But the night after this taping, we are going to be doing a live internet broadcast concert that's going to be up for a rebroadcast, so you can watch the video on Facebook.com/KissedAlive.
Oh, wow.
But my co-founder in this band, I'm like the only one of the original guys left in the band, but the guy that started the band with me 8-9 years ago, his name is John Douglas. He was the original Ace Frehley spaceman in our band. And I want to tell you, and I'll send you the picture later. I'll get a good shot of it from John. I'm sure you won't mind.
Yeah, we can post it with the interview.
So you guys can all see this in the comments below this this post.
Yeah.
The entire top half of his back is the bottom panel from the Kiss Unmasked album cover.
Wow.
In glorious full color across the entire top 2/3 of his back. That's what this is.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Now, now again, like you were sharing me, Jason Lee, when you first saw this album, for the first time, you're about 10 years old. And part of being a Kiss fan, I'm sure at that point, is like loving the image of the band, the comic book thing as an album cover. That had to have been the coolest thing for you.
Yeah, actually, it was really cool. They always push the envelope on all fronts, and really they never got credit of it.
Yeah.
People saw it as gimmick and stuff like that. But as a Kiss fan and as a music fan, I liked that it was full service. They were multimedia before anybody else. You get the 4 solo albums, and then inside each one of them was an album poster. But they were like puzzle pieces, and then they all 4 fit together and made one giant unified poster. So the fact that one of their album covers was basically an animated cartoon strip or whatever, that's par for the course. I just think it's another way that they did something unique. And
I
loved it, and I love the whole tongue-in-cheek, the good-natured way of saying, you know what, haha, we fooled you again, of the actual storyline on the comic strip. I love it,
And see, that's the thing.
Unmasked, but
that's the thing. They call it Unmasked, and I remember the first time like reading the comic strip on the album cover, and I'm thinking, like a lot of people, it's unmasked. They're gonna take the makeup off or something, but no, they're just kind of playing with our minds,
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly think, this bears no weight. It's just something I made up in my funny brain, and that happens all the time anyways, but I digress. I think that because what happened within 2 albums, they did just that. Right? They had, 3 albums, was it? Because they had Creatures of the Night.
Yeah.
They had Music from the Elder. I don't know which one of those came first.
Music from Elder was first, and then Creatures was kind of a
And then they had to pick it up where they took off the makeup.
Yeah.
So within 3 albums, they took off their makeup. I honestly think because that was when the original lineup was going to be gone.
Yeah.
It was gone. The original lineup was permanently fractured on the album before, but he had tried to come back during the recording of that album, and that's when he had that. I don't know if you ever heard the story of when he came back and he actually had to audition for his spot back in the band. So he came in, he brought a music stand, some glasses, and he couldn't read music. So actually, the music stand and stuff, it was really, by all accounts, all for show.
Yeah, I read that.
He couldn't read music, so it was just a fake. It was a con job. He was just looking at it.
Yeah, in fact,
I can't read music either, but I've made notes before, like, okay, the chorus is 4 times around, and then the bridge is going to be 3 times around, then we do this 1-time turnaround, and then we do it. So you can make notes, but from what they said and what I saw in the interviews, it was just sheet music.
Yeah,
if it was notes, I can get it, and maybe they were just mocking him even further by that point and not taking him seriously. Again, we don't know because we don't know what was actually on the paper, whether it was, music staff and there was notes on it and he was pretending to be able to read it.
Yeah, Jason.
Or if it was just his handwritten notes.
Jason Lee, I'll tell you where you got that story from. I actually remember reading that in Paul's first book, and I've heard him like kind of do the audiobook. You can find that on YouTube if you look for it. And in that section, he's actually Paul's talking during the audiobook, and he's actually kind of really condescending towards Peter. He's like, man, this guy is acting like he's a music scholar. he's anything.
Oh, dude, that audio book, that's hilarious.
He's like, anything
I
but.
listen to the clips from that, it's like, oh, man, we like ourselves.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
And then I was laughing in that audiobook when he's talking about Peter Criss again, like on the reunion tour, and he's like...
But, I had heard that, though.
Yeah.
And I had heard somewhere, I'm almost positive that I'd seen like a video interview or something where Peter kind of owns up to it, kind of corroborates it. Like, I did this thing, but I couldn't make, so I brought in this music stand, and
didn't work.
It went horrible.
Yeah.
So I don't know, somewhere along the line, I think it's been corroborated that he brought in a music stand and was like, what are you doing? I think the producer as well.
And then what's funny about Unmasked too, even Dynasty back to back is by the time Unmasked was released, Peter was really nowhere in the studio. He wasn't even a part of that album in any way except for doing the music video for Shandi. And by the time Unmasked comes out, if you look at the album credits, Ace Frehley for once has 3 songs on an album. He's a little his place in the band has kind of been lifted a little higher.
He was actually the second single that they released. It was an Ace song.
Yeah, Talk to Me, Torpedo Girl.
Usually it was a Paul song, then a Gene song, and then maybe an Ace song.
Yeah.
He was actually the second. It was Two Sides of the Coin, maybe, I think it was.
Well, I'll tell you the 3 tracks, and they're all good tracks, I must say. It was Torpedo Girl, Talk to Me, I think it was Talk to Me was the single, and Two Sides of a Coin.
The singles that, according to, Wikipedia, the singles from Unmasked were Shandy, Talk to Me, and Tomorrow.
Yeah. Talk to Me was an Ace track. And I remember that because Unmasked was also the first time Kiss had ever toured in Australia. That's funny
that none of the first 3 were Gene songs.
Yeah. But I remember that's the very first time they toured Australia in 1980. And part of the reason they toured there was because they'd had such a massive hit with I Was Made for Loving You like a year before. And
really?
Then they released Shandy. And so I guess that's why when they go to Australia, those are the 2 biggest songs like in Australia that Kiss ever did was like Shandy and I Was Made for Loving You. And so they always play those 2 songs, when they go there. And I remember like when they were on tour in Australia, they did a video for Talk to Me. You could probably look it up on YouTube. I'm sure you can find it.
That Ace and Anton combination was really evident on Talk to Me.
Yeah.
Especially the way he rides his percussion and his rototoms and his higher end sounding drums. As it leads into the solo or as it goes to the bridge or whatever.
Yeah.
You could definitely tell when you look back on it and stuff now, knowing it was Anton. Yeah. It's really tasty stuff, and that theme is often revisited, especially on that first Ace Frehley solo album. The way that playing style in Anton, I think it blended well with what was, what Ace was developing into as a songwriter.
Yeah, and see, it's funny because again, like I remember even back then thinking, okay, Eric Carr's a new drummer, because they really didn't list the musicians.
Didn't we all assume that it was Eric doing that when we heard there was a ghost drummer?
Yeah, and you're thinking,
it was got to be Eric Carr, right? Nope, wasn't even him.
Wait a minute, Peter Criss, he's on the album cover, but Eric's the drummer now. Okay, and so you had that to kind of deal with, and nobody even knew anything about Anton Fig playing on Dynasty or Unmasked until like 1987 when Frehley's Comet first got together.
Yeah, I think so. I think there was definitely some kind of gag order in effect, and I think once the 2 of them got out together and stuff, they're like, you know what, okay, we're about done with this, so I don't think they renewed it after that or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a gentleman's agreement, even like with Bob Kulick, who I'd like to get your opinion on, because I met Bob a few times, and he seems like a pretty cool cat, but I've heard him for years say, and the only reason he started talking about playing on those Kiss albums is that Gene was one day giving an interview saying like, oh yeah, on Kiss Alive 2, on side 4 of those studio tracks, that's not Ace Frehley except for Rocket Ride. Bob Kulick played all those guitar solos, and Bob said after that, hearing that, he got permission from Gene. Yeah, go ahead. You can let people know you played on those albums, and I guess Bob Kulick recently had a falling out with his brother Bruce and Gene and Paul, and started kind of saying, oh, these guys ripped me off or whatever, and it's kind of
it's a shame what's going on now. There seems to be a rift between him and his brother.
Yeah,
square that away because life is short and family is family, man.
Yeah, and I think sadly what it is like I said, there's a gentleman's kind of agreement not to talk, not to really trash anybody or just kind of say, yeah, Bob played on these songs, and he's like, yeah, they should have paid me more. That's his kind of attitude now. And I think
I also read a recent article, interview with Bob, saying that when they did that Hewlett Brothers stuff on the cruise, and all that, they did like some live tunes, and I guess they did some merch or something like that, and it had something to do with his image on that merch and his compensation or lack of.
Yeah, I guess what it really boils down to from what I've heard him talk about is that him and Bruce, they got this band together with Brent Finch, the drummer from Union Slash's band, and some of these other guys. And,
hell of a drummer.
And they called it the Killick Brothers. And they got a huge response. And I guess
I was stoked. I wanted to see that stuff myself. I was hoping they would tour it.
I guess that's what Bob wanted too. He's like, hey Bruce, I could talk to some people. We could do a CD of original music. We could go out there with these guys. It would be a great thing to do. And Gene and Paul started kind of wanting to get involved. Well, hey, you guys did this thing on the Kiss cruise. We gotta have some involvement in it. And
what?
And Bruce kind of sided with Gene and Paul because he's like, hey, these guys I worked for all these years. I got to kind of be. And again, like you said, who knows what the truth is? But and I guess Bruce is going to do something with the guys, but Bob is no longer involved. I guess that's kind of the beef he has, which I can kind of understand if it's true.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a shame that two of them just couldn't just go out and do a club tour or something, because I would have loved to have seen that. They both that were involved in some serious history. Yeah.
It's very sad that it's turned into what it has. But getting back to Unmasked, I tell you, one of my.
What's your favorite song on Unmasked, Jason? I'm going to ask you. I'm going to interview the interviewer.
Sure. Well, I'll tell. To be honest,
what is your favorite track from the Kiss album Unmasked?
To be honest, I have, but my all-time favorite I'd have to say is a song. It's a Paul Stanley tune. Is That You? Now, if you listen to that, it sounds very much like a Paul tune. It sounds very much like a Kiss song. But it is a song that somebody outside of the band wrote. It has nothing really to do with the band.
Gerard McMahon? Who is that?
Yeah, I've heard of him, and I've seen him from time to time, on Facebook and stuff. He's also, I think, the guy that wrote the soundtrack for the Lost Boys movie. But
okay.
That's who I think it is. But that sounds very much like a Paul tune, and I love it for that fact. And I didn't find out for years later until I actually looked at the writing credit. Oh, okay, that's not a Paul Stanley.
I wonder how he got that song. Whether he heard it and said, "Hey, man, can I use it?" or whether he wrote it for him, or wonder what the genesis of that is. Looking into that a little further.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that. And then like oddly enough, like I have a little love for because I'm such a Gene fan. Like he's my favorite member of the band, but I like She's So European, but like I thought the song Naked Cities kind of is a little different.
It is, but I like the vocal approach that he takes on that. It's really cool. I was just thinking about that. That chorus was, I don't think you'd ever heard him sing that way before, and everybody thought, well, it's, the gruff stuff, and he doesn't really have a range, but he showed that he can kind of hang with Paul when it comes to an upper register. He just doesn't choose to do that. They kind of stay in their own corners, you know what I mean? They don't try to have their circle overlap the other one. I think it kind of worked for him that way or whatever. But when he wanted to, he could get up there and he could sing some serious stuff, and it was a different vibe. But it made sense when you heard the stuff that they evolved into, because it was it was foreshadowing of things to come. When you listen to stuff that he sang on albums like Animalize, things that he sang on that album kind of used the same vocal approach. So I think it was each of them. Kind of him and Paul Stanley, they went through eras of their voice and their vocal approach. Because when you go 20, 30, 40 years, you adopt different styles every now and then, or something tweaks every now and then.
Yeah, I think most Kiss fans will agree with me when I say this, is I think the best Kiss songs and the best is when Gene and Paul, like very relevant on both like Destroyer and Revenge, when they would write together, when they would co-sing song together, back and forth, like Shout Out Loud. It'd be Paul and Gene kind of back and forth, even like Christine 16. But when they started kind of like writing on their own and with outside writers, some of that stuff, like you said, on Animalize, like I like Burn Bitch Burn and Murder in High Heels, it's quite a little different. But that's why I think by the time
While the City Sleeps, same kind of song as Naked City.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why I think by the time Revenge came around and they started
what
writing,
a great album that was! Don't get me started.
Yeah, they started writing together and singing. Lee, like a perfect example of like God Gave Rock and Roll to You. If you watch the video of the back and forth, it is just such classic Kiss. And even I remember
it is, and it reminds you that they really were what they set out to be. Honestly, they really were, and I'm going to make a case for it too. But they set out to be the Lennon and McCartney of their era, of their corner of the world, and absolutely, without a doubt, they were. They had that same two-part harmony thing. The other guys chimed in, of course, but it was really based around their harmony sound. Those two guys. And when they worked together, they did amazing things.
And then I remember even Paul, when Revenge came out, he was saying, we got Bob Ezrin back in the picture, and he suggested, hey, why don't you guys write together like you used to? And he said, I told Bob, I kind of forgot about how, what a great team we were. And it just goes, even like on Monster, they co-wrote some of the stuff together, and I think that's really
and not for nothing, somebody who had a good influence on that album was the oft-maligned Vinnie Vincent.
Oh yeah,
he wrote a couple of songs on that one, on Revenge.
And I gotta say, that's what I never understood about Vinnie. Okay, maybe you can't get along with people, and you got your little issues, but like I think if the guy would have been able to control his issues, he could have at least written stuff for other people and would have made a decent living.
Yep, absolutely.
It's just.
But coming back to Unmasked, I also see that, and it doesn't surprise me that on one of the Ace tracks, what was it? Talk to Me. He does all the guitars, of course, but he also does the bass. So I'm wondering if he just recorded it and sent it to them. Here, it's all done. And Gene said,
and then another interesting thing is I think you could check this out on the Wikipedia. I don't know if it mentioned it, but I read somewhere over the years that the track Shandy isn't even really...
the bass guitar on that is not a member of Kiss. It was a guy named Tom Harper.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I think Paul Stanley's really the only official member of Kiss to appear on that, on the studio track. And very much same with when they did the film Detroit Rock City. They did that song, Nothing Can Keep Me From Coming to You or something like that. And Paul's the only one that appears on that. But yet it's people think it's a Kiss tune.
Yep, and then of course Vinnie Poncia has co-writing on several songs, and I imagine he's the kind of producer like a Mutt Lange, that from Def Leppard and
AC/DC.
Oh, who else? Brian Adams and
AC/DC,
Twain, stuff like that.
And he did like early AC/DC too. Mutt Lange.
Yeah, so where he has a heavy hand in reshaping the songs and things like that, and arranging. So it makes sense that he would probably get co-writing credit.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Vinnie Poncia too is while we know he's very much heavily involved with both Dynasty and Unmasked, they brought him back a few years later, like in when they did Hot in the Shade, and he wasn't brought in as a producer, but he was very much heavily involved with the songwriting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't come back as a producer because, well, you never know. I mean, because then you want something heavier, and then you find a way to change. I don't know. So I don't think it would have sounded as poppy and glossy as those disco-sounding albums, but you never know. And,
also right around the time of Unmasked coming out, we also, if you remember, had Peter Criss releasing his very first post-Kiss solo album, which was Out of Control. And
man, someone bought that for me as a gift about a month and a half, 2 months ago. The guy that actually helped me build my drum set that I use in Kiss to Live.
Yeah.
My buddy Dave Jansen, he brought it over and he gave me the album, on vinyl. Because I have a little vinyl player that my wife bought me a couple of Father's Days ago.
Yeah.
And keep it in the corner of my living room, and every now and then I'll whip out some vinyl, to try and act civilized, right?
Yeah.
And so he brought that, and he was thinking, this is going to be some, he was expecting, and he didn't listen to it until he got up there with me, and he was expecting, like, Black Diamond. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when he got Blue Moon over whatever kind of stuff, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Well, actually, he's put out quite a few solo things now. Blue Moon over Brooklyn, that wasn't.
Oh, that was way later, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, but like Out of Control, that was the one with the single off of that was By Myself. And what's funny is it came out shortly after Unmasked, and he was actually the first one to ever go on TV at that time. I think it was on the Tom Snyder show, not wearing any makeup, and he was like, well, and see, that was the whole thing between Kiss and Peter at the time. The story was that not that they weren't friends. Even back in 1980, nobody knew anything about Peter had a drug addiction. They kept it real low key, and they were like, well, Peter left because he's married a swimsuit model, and he's happy, and he's going to have a baby, and he wants to kind of retire from touring, and then Peter goes on the Tomorrow Show as a solo artist, talking about his solo album that's getting ready to come out, and oh yeah, I'm still best of friends with the guys, and I just wanted to kind of slow down and that was a story they were kind of giving us at the time, and then it would be only years later that he was a drug addict and he couldn't drum with shit, but it's kind of as the years pass on.
Well, there's contracts and clauses and stuff that say you can't talk about it for a while, gag orders and things. I imagine for a while, since they're all making money off of status quo type of thing, it made sense that they wouldn't talk about it for a while.
Yeah, and I guess when he first left, he thought that he was going to remain or that's probably what he was told, remain a partner. But eventually, somehow, and you can't really blame Gene or Paul for this, because if you're stupid enough not to have your lawyer or anything around and just kind of sign something, you can't really blame them and say, oh well, it's their fault that I signed away my rights to the Kiss name.
Yep.
Yeah.
I heard that he signed away his image rights, but that Ace leases them.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I found out. If do you remember when they put out that I think it was 94 that Kiss put out its own tribute album to themselves. It was called Kiss My Ass.
Oh, I remember it well. And it's got Garth Brooks.
Yeah.
It's got a bunch of stuff on there.
That's why if you look at the album cover, Gene and Paul and even Peter in the original makeup design, but then Ace is
not on the cover. Correct.
It's got a different kind of makeup design, and they got like a little girl.
He wouldn't sign off on it.
Yeah, that's why.
I love it.
Yeah,
love it.
Yeah, and now then there was also getting back to Unmasked, the song Tomorrow. I love that. That was a little bit of a kind of a pop tune, but and then like Shandi, like we were talking about, I guess they thought they'd have a big hit, especially like in Australia.
Well, Tomorrow was the number 3 single from that.
Yeah, people forget that, but like see, we're talking about an album that's 40 years old, and oddly enough, probably most Kiss fans, even when they hear Kiss Unmasked, they think of Shandi, because that was like the big hit. But even a song like Tomorrow made all the way to number 3. People kind of forgot about it, kind of sadly.
Yep. I think it's an important step in the band.
Yeah.
I think it proved what they were trying to do, which was, this is a machine and it's going to keep moving along. And one flat tire, well, we're going to fix the tire and we're going to move on, And I think it proved that they could and that they did, I'm glad that they finally got Eric in the band and got that Bonham foot, and I was just... We're doing some recording, I suppose I can tell you.
Sure.
We're doing some recording of some Kiss stuff during the downtime for various things. Yeah. And one of the first tunes up to bat, we are doing, should I say? Yeah, why not? Because by the time this is out, maybe it'll be out already. It's going to be War Machine we're working on.
Oh, cool.
Because I love Eric Carr, man. And I want to, I've been having a lot of fun with it. I like to play it a little quicker, like from the Animalized Live video. I think that's the best version of that song ever, arguably. And I just love the way Bruce Kulick played it. I love the way Eric played it. And but the original version, it's a little slower, and it's so Bonham. It's just awesome. I mean, it was so heavy at rap.
See, Eric,
this Unmasked was a necessary step to get there. First, they had to shed the power pop drumming of Peter Criss. I don't see him ever adapting or wanting to adapt that kind of style of drumming. I think he was very into his big band stuff, and he did have some heavy rock stuff. I mean, you listen to anything off of Alive One was really progressive metal at that point.
Well, I mean, like
especially Black Diamond. I mean, that's heavy stuff. But I don't know. Maybe he could have done something different.
Well, even you look at like 100,000 years. I mean, that's almost like a full.
Exactly, 100,000 years.
Blown on metal. Yeah.
I love it. Did you know that drum solo on that live version on Kiss Alive?
Yeah.
Was actually 3 drum solos stitched together.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, yeah, I mean, I did hear Kiss Alive, especially the first one. They had to go back to the studio and kind of fix a lot of that stuff, but you really can't tell by listening, and it doesn't really bother me. Like, oh man, that's not a real live. Well, I put it on. It sounds live to me.
Well, you know what? I don't care how live things really were. Like, I'll tell you this. One of the first things that Kiss Alive ever did, like studio-wise, we recorded a version of Deuce for a tribute CD.
Yeah. I heard that before. You shared that with me, yeah.
It's a live version, but it's about as live as Kiss Alive, and take that as you will. But, it was the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law. How about that? Yeah, and it rocks. And you listen to that song and you get pumped up, So the ends justify the means, and I wholeheartedly support whatever they had to do. Because that album was supposed to bring the listen. What is a live album supposed to do? It's supposed to bring you into the world of that live concert.
Yeah,
it's supposed to put you in that world. So the ends justify the means. If you got to tweak things, if you got to polish things, you want the best possible scenario. It doesn't need to be warts and all. It just needs to simulate the live experience for the listener. And I think that, combined with the fact of they had finally shed the Kerner and Wise pop duo team production, and they got Eddie Kramer, the god of Jimi Hendrix and Electric Ladyland Studio. When you got that guy producing a live album for Kiss, you have something amazing. Okay, just amazing.
Well, I'll tell you, I got, like anybody else, I got appreciation for Jimi Hendrix, but Jimi Hendrix was a little before my time, and I'll tell you, I remember back in the day when I started collecting all these Kiss albums, you'd always see in the back of the Kiss albums, recorded at Electric Ladyland, and foolishly, not knowing any better, I thought, hey, Electric Ladyland, that's Kiss's studio, not knowing it was, Jimi Hendrix's, but you'd find that out years later.
I was just thinking about something that I had heard on Unmasked, by the way, since we were talking about that album earlier. It was all the tracks except for the 2 Ace tracks featured outside co-writers.
Yeah, that's so.
All of them. I just noticed that all of them were like that. That's,
And let me ask you just a little bit of trivia for you. You may or may not know this. Do you know? Okay, Gene, I think, did write Naked City, but do you know who the co-writer was?
Let's see, Naked City. Oh my. Well, there's 4 of them. How about that?
Yeah. Well, okay. The one.
Gene Simmons, Vinnie Poncia, a gentleman named Pepe Castro, and the infamous Bob Kulick.
Yeah, but he's going by the name Robert. If you look at the credit, but okay, we know who that is. Yeah.
Who is Pepe Castro though?
Actually, he's an interesting cat. If you can look him up later, but he was actually in a band with Bob Kulick called Balance.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. 3 degrees of separation.
Yeah, and Bob, I guess, at one point was Paul Stanley's best friend, and so I'm sure he had something to do with introducing them. In fact, when Bob first came to work with Paul Stanley on his solo album, I think he had just come off of Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare tour.
Yeah, he also had a band called the Blues Magoos.
Yeah, that's it. That's the guy.
With a song called Riding the Wave.
I've never really heard of it, but I've heard the name Pepe Castro because of, Unmasked and that. Yeah. But yeah.
So there you go. Pepe Castro.
Yeah. See,
Cool and Cocky is one of their songs.
Yeah.
All right. Good for him.
That sounds like a cool song, but we got to hear about it later. But Unmasked, like you said, and then very much kind of like it's kind of Unmasked was very poppy by the time they got to do The Elder. Very much, drama still going on because Ace was then strung out on drugs and alcohol, and he wasn't even showing up. They even though they did it like at his home studio, he didn't. He wasn't on a lot of albums from what I understand, except for maybe the track Dark Light, and he hated the stuff. He's telling Gina Paul, "Oh, this stuff sucks. Nobody's gonna buy this," and buy this.
Right.
And by this time, Eric Carr had been, he'd been touring around the world with Kiss. and he was excited.
That's what I jumped into.
I thought the next album was really gonna rock. What is this stuff? And then that's why by the time they got to Creatures, Ace is still kind of, he's there but he's not there. They're having these other players, including Vinnie Vincent, come in and cut the solos. I think even Steve Fist, a guitar player from Mr. Mister, came in and cut a solo. But again, when Creatures, and I think Bob Kulick even might have been involved on a track or two. But when Creatures were released, again, Ace is on the album. Okay, Ace must play on the album because he's on the cover. And
it's amazing that they did that twice in a row. That's how they chose to handle the exit of a member, by just straight out lying to their fans.
Yeah, and then
I'm not sure that sits well with me as a fan.
Yeah, and then by the time Lick It Up comes around, Vinny.
As a guy in a band, I get it, but
yeah, and then Vinny, by that point, he goes on tour with them, on the Creatures tour, and they, he was a co-writer on I Love It Loud, Danger, I think War Machine, and they seen, okay, this guy's toured with us. He's toured with the band now. He's got his own makeup design. He can write stuff, and that's why.
They should have let that be right there. They could have kept that one going for a long time, I think.
That
guy would have just not been, whatever happened or whatever made him so loopy or whatever.
Well, even
there, maybe they just drove him nuts. Who knows?
Yeah, even in
some people aren't built to exist on that level of business and commerce. That kind of a band, it's like the Eagles or the Rolling Stones. It's a small country. The money that is involved in the Rolling Stones or Kiss is like a small. I guarantee you, there's lots of countries in the world that their gross national product or whatever their is less than what Kiss is responsible for in their company. Some people aren't built to exist on that level.
Well, I understand why Vinny really got let go was all throughout the Lick It Up tour, they were trying to get him to sign an employment agreement.
He never signed on. He never officially signed a contract. And he's like, well, fix this and that. And they're like, no. And so they both kind of were like, okay, well, let's ride this out and see what happens. And then finally they just said, okay, see you later, bud.
Yeah, and then, then by that point, I'd also read in Paul's book about Vinny, when during the Lick It Up tour, he kind of went off on him on stage, hey, man, because he was doing his flashy solo.
And they had to actually, come out and cut his Vinnie Vincent, everybody.
Yeah, and then he's like, you don't ever embarrass me on stage like that again, dude. I'm the star.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, that was a crazy time.
Yeah.
It was a crazy thing, but it was a solid Kiss record, and I think it deserves its place in the lineup of their albums. I'm not saying it's my least favorite. It's not my absolute favorite, but
least favorite either.
It sounds like a Kiss album, and I think it deserves to be there,
And what
you can say what you want about how they presented it and how they presented the lineup of the band, but I think that maybe in the back of their minds they were hoping against hope that something would come back later, or I don't know. But what I was going to say earlier about it is, I think maybe because they knew that the album or the lineup was permanently fractured, they hadn't told the public yet. I think that this album was supposed to be a truly unmasked album, and that they got cold feet, because Paul alludes to it in several interviews over the years where they were going to do it a couple of times. They got close, but they never pulled the trigger on it, and they just decided it would be easier not to. And I think this album was one of those times. I think we almost got the unmasking then. I think the reason they didn't is because maybe they didn't have a solid lineup yet. Maybe Eric Carr wasn't really in it as much as they would have liked, or maybe he wasn't in the picture at all by the time they came up with the concept or whatever. So then they just did it's going to be called Kiss Unmasked, and then people are thinking it's going to be unmasked. And then they chose to go this way as a way of saving face, because maybe they had already floated the album title as a working title or something, But I think that they were going to do it then and go, look, we're a different band now, so let's be a different band now. Let's take the makeup off, like they did for Lick It Up. But
and
I don't think they were ready to, and so that they pulled a 180.
Yeah, even with Lick It Up, I heard they initially, I don't know if this is true, but they claim that they initially shot that album cover in the makeup, and then they had
I've seen a version of the Lick It Up cover in makeup.
Yeah, so that if that's the case, that's kind of very interesting. But I do think by the time Lick It Up came out, they were kind of, Gene and Paul had realized, you know what, maybe with Unmasked and Dynasty and all that, we weren't too sure if the fans would accept Kiss without Ace and Peter. So we want to kind of make them think that the group is still together. But I think by the time, Creatures and especially Lick It Up came out, they said, okay, you know what? Yeah, the fans will accept, Kiss without Peter and Ace. They'd much rather Kiss carry on than break up just because two of the members are no longer. And I think that's kind of what made them say, okay, yeah, now it's time to take off the makeup.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Fans go back and forth on it and stuff like that. And I have seen a version of the album cover with the makeup on. And I think by then, dude, it had run its course. I think it was a logical thing. I think, the Bruce Kulick era was just so criminally underrated. Oh, my God. Some of those songs were so good. And Revenge was awesome. But, getting back to wrap it up with Unmasked, I just think that, like I said, it was a necessary album. I think it was an evolution. And I think it was them going, we're going to be stubborn and we are going to persevere. And I think this, as much as anything, is a shot for perseverance.
Yeah.
It was the start of we're not going to let one guy bring this whole thing down.
Yeah.
It's way bigger than that. It's bigger than the four of us now. We've got people with jobs on the line. And we're going to keep this thing going, whatever it takes. And this album was their statement of that. It was defiant, honestly. To make this album and not have a permanent drummer of Kiss on most of the tracks. You've got a session drummer basically at the time.
Yeah, and I will say this.
It wasn't even Eric Carr. I mean, I think that it took balls for them to do this album. As poppy as it was, as disco-y as people say it was, I think it was a hell of an album. Talk to Me, the drumming on it was really cool. That was a rock album.
Yeah, but, and I will say,
which is a little pop Shane, but I think that it was. I think it was necessary, and I think for what it was a great album. It was a Kiss album, and it was their defiant statement. We are going to persevere.
Yeah, I will.
And I love it.
I will say this: when you consider, Unmasked came out in 1980, and it's booked in. The album's booked in between Dynasty and Music from the Elder. Between those three albums, I would say I definitely got a lot of love for Dynasty and Unmasked. I got a little bit of love for Elder even, but I would say those two albums, it still said that like Kiss is here. We haven't gone anywhere, and that's why I think when they finally came out with Creatures, they said no, we're going to come back bigger, bigger and heavier.
And I think that for a lot of Kiss fans, you could have just taken the Elder, pushed it off somewhere in the background, and. Creatures of the Night was the album they should have made after Unmasked. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. And I will say this, a little bit more trivia on Creatures of the Night while we're mentioning that album is, which I really never understood, but around 1985 when they released Asylum, for some, I guess maybe as a way to get more record sales, they released an updated version of Creatures of the Night with, of all people, taking the original Ace Frehley cover off and doing a new cover with Bruce Kulick.
Bruce Kulick on the cover.
Who again
didn't make any sense at all.
Who again didn't even play on the playing the album. I remember I was so confused at the time, thinking, okay, maybe they recorded this.
So these guys were in their own planet for 10 years. Oh, whatever. We'll just do it this way. It'll make sense because we're Kiss.
And then oddly,
follow our own rules.
And then
what?
Yeah, and then that became like a collector's item, obviously, because years later, I mean, if you go to get Creatures of the Night today, you will get it with the original Ace cover. So. There's two different versions, and one's out of print. So that just kind of makes a little, interesting tidbit. Well, my friend Jason, I've enjoyed talking to you once again. Is there anything else you'd like to let us know before we wrap this up?
Well, I just want to thank the people that are sponsoring our next show, Campland on the Bay. We were supposed to play a concert. Yeah. We've played there twice a year for the last 5-10 years or whatever, and we were supposed to play there on May 22nd, 2020, and obviously due to the coronavirus, we couldn't do that. So they stepped up to the plate and sponsored a live studio broadcast of a concert. So that's what probably is going to happen tomorrow night at the time of this taping. So by the time people are hearing this, it's out, and they can go to the page for Kissed Alive on Facebook, facebook.com/Kissed Alive, and check out the video.
And this will be like
from that concert. Honestly, go to campland.com. When you can go camping again, and you're in Southern California, I urge you to go and spend a couple days camping at Campland. They're right on the edge of the bay, of Mission Bay in San Diego, across the water from SeaWorld. Yeah. So right around sunset, you can see the nightly SeaWorld fireworks from your spot. It's an amazing place. They have great music during the summer, and until the time when you can go, then just check out their website.
And let me ask you, Jason, is this
buy some of the merch or something? I don't want to sound like I'm selling, like snake oil, or anything like that, or I'm going to start being Rocky with the meat packing plant has the name on the back of his robe. The only reason I'm so passionate about this, Jay, is that right now, honestly, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again, right now, we need the escape of entertainment now more than ever. It's important. It honestly is important. And to say something like a movie or a concert is important. And I'm not saying that we are important, like my band.
No.
We're just lucky to play a part, is what I'm saying. The whole process of it is necessary. That release of energy, that communal feeling. We need to feel it. We're still one. We're still a human race, not just a bunch of people living in their boxes and you can't come outside to play anymore. So we need to feel different ways that we're connected. So
definitely. I hear you.
The fact that Campland was willing to step up to the plate and help help live music continue, which is what this is really all about. They made this show possible. So I really want to.
And I know you share with me.
People know that they're supporting live music, and when people go out of their way to support live music, we got to thank them.
And I know because you shared with me in the past about this organization that you're very much involved with it every year, and you shared with me that you've helped out disabled kids and stuff, which is really a great thing to be involved with. I mean, my day job when I'm working, that's what I do is work with like disabled adults. So I really kind of I have a great understanding of working with people like that.
It's God's work. Honestly, it's just I'm happy that I get to have a ringside seat, to other people's rad moments. That's what it is. From up on the stage, I got a good view of somebody having a moment that I can feel it. You can feel what it was like to be in their shoes and be at a show that just took it to the next level for you for whatever reason. And if our little tribute band can do it, man, I'm all for it. We're going to find a way to keep doing it. So if we got to do it from the studio, great. The first time we did it, we had over 20,000 people watching it in 4 different continents. Man, I love that, dude, and we need to feel connected. So if we're able to, throw our little hat in the ring and people are having a good time, then awesome. As long as we're being safe about it and we're encouraging people to be safe. Like, we don't allow people to come to the studio. Our wives are here, but they're not sitting together, that kind of thing. They're
social
out on the pool deck. So we're trying to still encourage people to be safe. But we're going, okay, if this is how we can play for you right now, this is how we'll play for you. You want us to play? We're going to play. We'll find a way. People are reacting positively so far, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, not to get political here for a minute, but I do kind of laugh, living here in California, and and first they tell you, okay, we gotta, we gotta bend the curve or whatever, and then it's turned into the governor gets on TV every day and says, well, we might not return to any musical events for a good another year, and
you know what? I hear that noise, Jay, and I don't buy it. You know why? I got 3 words for you, and it's already happened in Europe, and I think you know where I'm going with this, dude. You ready? 3 words. Drive-in concerts. Dude, how rad is that going to be? And I'll even go one step further. Drive-in concerts are going to bring back drive-in movie theaters.
Well, you probably...
we ain't going to be able to go to a regular movie theater for a long time.
Yeah, you probably see...
It's not feasibly or money. It's not possible to have 2 out of every 3 seats empty in a movie theater. It's just that kind of space. You're wasting real estate and you're losing money. So you're not going to be able to get enough seats in the theater, or you're going to have to charge 3 times the amount. So here's what you do. You bring back the drive-in experience and you extend that to live music. I've seen an article that they've already done 1 or 2 of these over in somewhere Central Europe, and it's gone great. And you can do it super easy, man. You do your live show on a stage, where the movie screen would have been, right? You have the live stage, and then you can either play live and they have their windows open and the cars are 6 feet apart, or you you can play like electric drums and have everything go into, instead of a live amplifier, it goes into what essentially is, the receiver puts it out through like a radio broadcaster, and it goes into their car stereo. Kind of like Metallica did when they played, what was it, the South Pole?
Oh, okay. Wow.
And they played on the iceberg, or they played on the South Pole, or something like that. And they played like in a dome, and they played silently, and everyone heard it on headphones.
Oh, wow.
Instead of it being, and like people do that now at like I've seen Michelangelo Battio. He's a great guitar player.
Oh yeah.
I saw him at NAMM show, doing that, where they play and everyone's listening through headphones. Hey. So instead of that headphone, just broadcast it to the car stereo. You used to be able to do that with the old drive-in movies. You turn it to 88 on your FM dial, and you're broadcasting basically out of where the movie theater was, or the movie was being shown, the Snack Shack or whatever.
Wow.
And so do that with a live experience.
I can't believe
car stereos. Everybody can. If they're far enough apart, they can open up their windows.
Yeah.
And if they're not far enough apart, they got to close their windows. You crank up the car stereo. You honk your horn for applause at the end of the song. I mean, how awesome would that be, dude? I'm looking forward to the new and different ways people are going to come up with, because we're not going to stop being connected. That's the only thing that makes life worthwhile.
Yeah.
It's so random and weird that we're floating around on a rock in the middle of a corner randomly of a huge universe. It's just so random and weird.
I got to tell you, Jason, I can't believe you just mentioned that, because I swear to God, I have bands, the publicists send me like press releases and stuff. I got one recently from Casey Sullivan. He's a bass player that played for years with like Meatloaf, and they're sending out a press release that he's going to do one of these events. It's actually here in the United States. I forget where it's going to be, but it's somewhere outside of California. And they're actually going to do one of these things like you talked about, playing in a parking lot. And then I also seen on Facebook, Gary Hoey is talking about doing one of these like live events, like at a drive-in theater actually. So this is, I think, like you're very much right. I think that's going to be the new concert experience, because people are actually doing this or getting ready to do this now in the United States.
Yeah, dude, I'm ready for it. I'm totally ready for it. And I would be down to put one together, man. If we had a flat enough piece of land out on this bed and breakfast I own, I'd do it here, dude. Let's find a big field, rent this thing, and make it happen, dude. Let's go, people.
Yeah.
Let's get creative, and let's bring back a new kind of normal for concerts, man. I would love to. Dude, how much do you miss a drive-in movie?
Oh, yeah,
you've gone to one in your life.
Oh, yeah, I mean, they even have one, I think, still, like in Paramount, California, where the Paramount swap meet is.
Let's do that, man. Let's put one together. Let's have a drive. Come on, concert promoters, Live Nation, are you listening?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do the drive-in concerts. Bring it to America. Book Kissed Alive on one.
I would even think that the Santa Fe swap meet could do, because that's kind of used to be an outdoor theater.
There you are.
Yeah. Just a great idea. And, what I love about what you do, kind of what you're talking about earlier, people go see your band Kiss Alive and you're dressed up playing the part of Peter Criss, but you don't just stick to the Peter Criss era music. Like I
imagine like if they had all got together when they got back together in the 90s, they were doing Lick It Up.
Yeah.
Peter Criss was playing that. Peter Criss was playing Heaven's on Fire. So it just seems natural to me to celebrate the whole band.
That's cool, and I do think it'd be cool to kind of see a guy up there as Peter Criss, like you said, playing Heaven's on Fire, or Lick It Up.
Well, every now and then we get somebody up there to do Eric Carr, like my buddy Scotty McDowell did for a couple times after having a heart attack.
Yeah, and oddly enough, like Peter and Eric were very much different drummers, but yet they had the same kind of type of a singing voice. Because if you noticed, they had both Eric and Peter sing.
Smashes, thrashes, and hits. Yeah. Eric Carr doing that.
Yeah, and that was a bit of a controversy, and even I hear Eric talking in interviews.
He's like, apologize to Peter Criss.
I'm sorry, Peter. They're making me do it, and don't worry about it, Eric. But it's funny that while he sang Beth on the album, he would never sing it live, but yet they would have him sing Black Diamond. They have him sing, I think.
Well, because that's a band effort. I think it's a very different thing when you're out there by yourself singing to a track most nights. It's a whole different ball game, and I think that's I think they did the right thing, maybe by not having him do it. I think at all been said, I can argue the other side of the coin that what they're doing now with Eric Singer, because they're celebrating all eras of the band. Yeah. So I think it makes sense that Eric Singer is singing that.
Now, I really don't have a problem like a lot of fans with what they're doing these days, and I'll tell you why. They're not getting up on stage and pretending that that's Peter, Chris. You know, they're not passing somebody else off as Peter, Chris, and Ace Frehley. They're telling, this is Tommy and Eric. And that's kind of interesting because they said, which I kind of believe, but, well, these are the four characters that most Kiss fans identify with the band, which is true. And they've even said, that's why they own the copyright to those characters.
Right.
The characters have actually become bigger than the band members, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and by then, by now, they're on the victory lap. Yeah. You know what I mean? And who knows if it'll resume again, but that's what it is. So I get it that they're celebrating all eras of that thing now. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see because, like, I read an interview the other day with Tommy Thayer, and Tommy's even saying that, Kiss is no longer going to be touring after this next tour whenever it finishes, but Kiss is going to still be around. We're going to be still putting out merchandise and stuff. Kiss is going to still be around one way or another. And then Gene and Paul have even joked for years that, you know what? We're getting to the point where we want to retire.
Official Kiss tribute band.
We're gonna
alive. Oh, bring it on.
We're gonna even Paul and Gene are gonna replace themselves with other people.
Well, they'll just have an officially licensed thing, and then it'll be like a Broadway production. You have your first run with the main cast, and they'll run the main cast. It's like a Broadway show. I've often said during the 8 years we've been doing Kiss Alive, we are more like a Broadway show than we're more like the off-Broadway production of the main Broadway show. You know what I mean? It really has, a Kiss concert has a lot in common with a musical, a live musical, because it's theater sometimes, especially in our case, when we're trying to recall iconic moments from iconic live albums, we use the iconic banter in between the songs from those albums. Like rock and roll the mojo, let's call out Dr. Love. I mean, people kind of expect those things from a tribute band. So it really is theater in a way. It's rock and roll theater. And, I love it. I love it, dude. I love being in a Kiss tribute band. I'm like you, dude. I'm a Kiss fan, and there's a lot to mine there for a tribute band. There's a lot of different ways we can go, man. And it's all rock and roll. It's all beautiful. I thank Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss, and Ace Frehley for putting Kiss in our lives, dude. I've had a great time, playing these Kiss shows, and I hope I get to do more of them, before my time is through. I'm having fun. Yeah,
just to wrap before you wrap this up, Jason, because the broadcast you're doing tomorrow. You guys got like a planned set list? You're just going to kind of go in and kind of...
No, I'm actually looking at the set list right now. We're going to take a little acoustical break in the middle of the show and do a handful of tunes acoustically, and then that's going to be wrapped in two luscious pieces of electrified rock and roll music. So we'll have... 3 little segments to it,
Yeah, now, is this going to be a free...
And there's a couple of things coming your way that we have not done live before as a band, or at least that this lineup hasn't. So we are going to be putting a couple of new things into the mix.
Cool. Now, is this going to be a free event, or can people donate money?
Absolutely. It's free, 100%. They just go to... Facebook.com/KissedAlive. All you got to do is have a Facebook account, and it's going to be set to public. So I'm hoping that everyone will be able to, or maybe you just got to sign up on Facebook. That's the worst, I mean, that's the worst. The most effort you'll have to put through.
And I guess
so. You go to Facebook.com/KissedAlive, and there will be a live video playing starting around 7:30 tomorrow night.
Okay, and I guess I want to wish you all the best of luck with that. Now, if all goes well, like you said, you'll be looking for new ways to perform live, and I really hope you're able to do that. But if this is a success, do you think there'll be more like online events like this?
We're already looking to the end of June to do another one.
Oh, great.
Yes, our intention is to keep this going maybe once a month, once every other month or something. Our intention is absolutely to keep it going. Our thinking right now is if we were scheduled to play a show and it gets canceled, we're going to do a live show from the studio that night.
Oh, that's cool. And
we were supposed to play, I think it was June 27th or 28th at the San Diego County Fair, but that got postponed till next year. So, what do you think? I think that sounds like a good time for number 3, Jay.
Yeah. So, just let people know what we're talking about. Jason and I were discussing earlier today. whether we were going to be discussing the 40th anniversary of Unmasked, which we ended up doing, and then for next time when he and I have a chance to talk, we're going to be talking about the 27th anniversary of Kiss Alive 3. Can you believe
it's an amazing album with, it's got Eric Singer on drums,
Bruce
and it's,
Gillick.
Not him playing like he does now, which is, he's not trying to mime Peter's style. He's just trying to align the classic material with the original intent and the original feel of how it was played. And, and you know what I mean? But back in the 90s, when they were just a full-on hard rock metal band, he was playing a whole different ballgame back then, a lot more double bass stuff. And man, that album is just thunderous, dude. It was amazing. I love the way they played the old stuff. Bruce Kulick on guitar. They had basically it was the Revenge lineup, and Revenge was such a return to form, but at the same time a leap forward. It was back to basics on this plug in your guitar and burn style. There's not so much hammer-ons. There was more like beefy, Les Paul style playing, and man, it just showed. And they took that out on the road, and it was just awesome.
And
I loved that sound. I loved that record, and I loved the live album that came with it.
And Eric, he was a real rebel back then because he dared to join Kiss.
There it goes. I know what you're gonna say.
With the blonde hair.
Blonde hair, the only blonde in Kiss. That's right. Everyone else had to dye their hair or just be a brunette.
And it was only years later when he'd replace Peter that they'd make him dye his hair black. And back in the Revenge days.
If you put the makeup on, you gotta have a wig.
Yeah.
Or you gotta have dark hair. It just wouldn't look good.
Well, Jason Lee, I love talking to you again, but we'll do it again real soon. But before we wrap it up, because we mentioned during the conversation back around 1980, Peter released that first solo album,
Out of Control.
Out of Control. And
boy, it was out of control.
What were your thoughts, real quick, on that? Just kind of.
It was unfortunate. I was very disappointed. As a fan, you got it. As a musician, I get it though. You got to follow your heart, and he was never the Black Diamond guy. He was. But he would never let himself be that. He always wanted to get more in touch, I think, with the other side because that side was so repressed, that side of the jazz influence and all that stuff. And I think the fact that got pushed down so much in Kiss that when he was doing solo stuff, he's like, all right, now I'm going to do some of this, and I don't care what people think.
What's funny,
one side, I get it, and I like the fact that he's able to do whatever the hell he wanted. But the other side was, dude, you have one of the most powerful rock screaming, singing voices of all time. Dude, his vocals, when he can scream in key, man, most people just scream, they go for it, they hit the note they hit. This guy was screaming in key. The way he sang was so raw and gritty and powerful, and I wanted that. I wanted an album full of Black Diamond. And when he came out with all that mellow stuff, dude, I was, come on, bro, come on, dude.
And you know why it wasn't? Because even he was more interested in being a superstar or like a singer. I think he actually had another drummer come in.
Well, that kind of tweaked his brain. He didn't write it; it tweaked his brain. I think, man. I think he denied what he truly was great at. And it's that's the paradox, though. What do you do when you're what you're truly amazing at is not what you truly love? What do you do? I mean, I get it. After a while of being in Kiss and climbing that mountain, it's like, what's it going to matter? No matter how rad or how hard rock my stuff is, it's not going to reach the level it did for Kiss. So why might as well just do what I like? And fuck it.
Well, Jason Lee, we'll wrap it up, and I'll say goodbye for now. But I'll contact you. I'm going to try to check out the event tomorrow.
I'm here to talk to you whenever you want, man. I love hanging out with you. I love chaotic riffs. It's all good, man.
You
Anytime you need me, I'm here for you.
Thanks, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care, Jay.